Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is the new 2026 Surface Pro 13-inch 12th edition. This is Microsoft's latest Surface Pro, and it starts at $1,499.99 and goes up to $3,549.99. It comes in three different colors: Dune that I have here, Platinum and Black, and you can get an X2 Plus with 10 cores, which also gives you an LCD, or the X2 Elite that we have here with a 12-core CPU with an OLED display. You can get from 16 gigs of RAM all the way up to 64, and then up to a 1 terabyte SSD. So let's go ahead and open this up and take a look here. So you'll see here on the back, of course, we have the keyboard accessory here. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And you'll see that we have the Surface Pro 13-inch 12th edition, and it says Snapdragon X2 Elite, 16 gigs and 512 gigabyte. Let's go ahead and open it up. So we'll go and pull this pull tab here. There we go. And let's swing the top open here. And you can see the new Dune color. So this looks pretty good. Let's set it aside just for a moment, and then we'll take a closer look at it. Let's see what we get in the box here. Typical paperwork we would expect. So just like the Surface laptop, we've got our warranty information, and then sort of an overview of the ports that we have. Of course, we also have the power adapter here with the wall plug. So that's included, of course. And let's open this up. It's probably the same that we get with the Surface laptop, but let's see. Let's see if we can remove this here. Remove the pull tabs. There we go. And there we are. So let's open this up here. And it looks like we have a 39-watt AC adapter. So exactly the same as we get with the Surface laptop. Let's set these aside and let's take a closer look at the new Surface Pro. So here is the Surface Pro 13-inch. Let's remove the cover off the glass here. There we go. And you can see the overall size with the bezels and everything else. Of course, we'll take a closer look at that in a moment once we boot it up. Let's take a look around it. So it looks like we have a power sleep wake button, our volume button, and then we have our Surface connector here on the right-hand side. And then on the left, we have two USB 4 ports. Now on the back here, we do have our kickstand and of course our camera. Let's see if we open this up here. So we can open this up, and this always scares me, but it's very durable. You can push it all the way to the frame and it won't break. We also have our removable SSD here. So if you want to upgrade this on your own, it's got 512 gigabytes, but again, you can upgrade this on your own if you'd like. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. And let's go ahead and place that back here. And there we go. It's just magnetic. Now we do have some speakers as well, so it looks like we've got a little vent around the outside, and of course some ports for the keyboard on the bottom. And this does have 2-watt speakers with Dolby Atmos and dual studio mics with enhanced voice focus. Now let's go ahead and turn it on and get it booted up here. This one's charged at least. The Surface laptop wasn't, so you can see how reflective this is as well. There's no nano texture option or anything like that. We'll give it just a moment, and then of course we'll connect the keyboard so we can get everything set up. So let's go ahead and move over to the keyboard here for just a moment while that boots up. And with the keyboard, this actually was included free. This was for a limited time, but if you want the one that matches in Dune with the Slim Pen, it's $450. So I opted for the free keyboard, and then you can buy the pen afterwards for $129. So let's go ahead and open this up. There we go. And we've seen this before, but again, this is just for a 13-inch size here. So we've got the keyboard like you would expect and nothing else here. So we're booted up here. Let's go ahead and attach the keyboard so we can get it set up. It's magnetic. There we go. And then of course you can stand it up just like this on the side. It's magnetic that way if you want a little tilt to the keyboard, or you can lay it flat. Of course, you can close it, and that's the overall size. Now, again, they do have a matching one, and then they have a matching one for each color, but I think with black, it looks fine as well. Again, let's fold this down here. So there we go. We can continue in English. So let's do that. Again, of course, it's a touch screen. We'll get this all set up. And then we'll take a closer look at things such as the speakers and the display and more. We'll go ahead and tap yes, I'm in the United States. And then we want to use a US keyboard. Of course, you can change this and then skip a secondary keyboard, but you could select that if you want. We'll connect to Wi-Fi here. And just because I don't know how charged this is, I'll go ahead and plug it in, but you can charge it via USB-C as well. Now it says checking for updates. There's an update to install, so we'll give this some time. Hopefully it's not as long as it took on the Surface laptop, which was 45 minutes. Now it updated. It took almost an hour to update. We'll go ahead and sign in here. And it says, let's add your Microsoft account. So I'll do that. Now I'll set up Windows Hello with Face ID here. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. And that's it. I'm all set. Now we'll go ahead and tap Next and move on to the next step. Now we'll set up a PIN, and then we'll choose privacy settings. I'll turn off personalized offers, tap accept, and I'm going to set this up as a new PC. So again, we'll tap more options, set up as new PC, and then set up as new PC. So I don't want to sync anything over. It's just going to take forever to do that. So we'll wait just a moment till we get to the home screen here. If we get to the home screen, there we go, getting things ready for you. And it says, let's customize the experience, maybe entertainment, gaming, and business, creativity. We'll tap accept. And then it says, use your phone from your PC. We'll skip this. And then again, we can use our phone's photos. We'll skip that for now. Then it says, always have access to your recent browsing data. We'll tap accept here. And then we'll move on to the next step where it wants us to buy Microsoft 365. I'll decline that, and move on here. And then it says unlock your photographic memory. This is something that, again, I mentioned in the laptop unboxing is a bit controversial. We can save it, but it does take storage and you can sort of go back in time, but we'll go to the home screen. Now, someone commented in the laptop unboxing how we have a dark theme by default. I set it up as new and that's what we get. Now, as far as the display goes, this is a 13-inch PixelSense Flow OLED display. It's 2880 by 1920 at 267 pixels per inch, up to 120 hertz this year, sRGB, and also 600 nits, 900 nits peak brightness on the OLED model that we have here. It is 10-point multi-touch, just like all the other Surface displays, and it does support 3 4K external displays at 60 hertz, up from 2 last year. Now internally, this is the Snapdragon X2 Elite 12-core. It has 16 gigs of RAM and currently 512 gigabytes of storage. And then the NPU processor is at 80 tops, up from 45, and we have a Qualcomm Adreno GPU, just like the Surface laptop. It's 53% faster graphics this time. We have Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4. Now, as far as the overall size, let me show a little comparison here. So we'll unplug this. This is the new Surface laptop. So to show you an overall size difference here, Surface laptop 13.8 inch, and this is the 13-inch Surface Pro. So again, that just gives you a size comparison here if maybe you were considering both of them or one or the other, and it shows you the overall size. Now again, that's with this keyboard. If you want the keyboard or without the keyboard, it's much thinner. Now, compared to an iPad Pro, since that's sort of its main competitor, here's an iPad Pro of the latest generation with a Magic Keyboard on it. So it's around the same thickness. Again, if we bring it side by side, you can see here just about the same thickness with the keyboard on it. Without the keyboard, it's much thinner, but again, we don't have any cooling here really. So it's a little bit different this time around as far as the overall size, but very, very similar to the 13-inch iPad Pro here. So again, if we compare just the iPad itself, the iPad is super thin. So you can see that here. So incredibly thin. It's basically half the thickness of the Surface Pro. And also we have a nano texture display option where we don't on this, where it's very reflective. So some slight differences here. Of course, that may not matter depending on what you're using it for. As far as the cameras, before we go ahead and take a look at the overall software and how it handles that, we've got a Quad HD or 1080p front-facing Surface Studio camera. It records at 1440p. The rear camera is a 10 megapixel Ultra HD that can record in 4K just like we had before. So not really much of a change there. And then internally, we do have a 53 watt-hour battery this time around, where it's up to 15.5 hours of video playback, 11.5 hours of active web usage, and 60 watt fast charging up from 45. However, they don't include the fast charger with it. We just get the 39 watt charger included. So if you want to charge it faster, you'd need to use something else, maybe USB-C or something along those lines. When it comes to Windows inking, of course, you can use the Surface Pen with this if you'd like. You would get all the same capabilities you had before. There's no real changes there this year. Now, when it comes to the display, let's go ahead and see if we have some PWM. So this is an OLED display. At 240 frames per second slow motion, I did not detect any PWM, and I couldn't detect it with shutter angle or shutter speed. So I'm not really seeing any difference here. It looks like it may be very easy on your eyes. Now, as far as the keyboard goes, let's go ahead and test that out. I'll open up Notepad here. We'll just open that up, bring it down here, and let me switch this over to light mode. So with light mode on, you can see it a little bit easier on the display, but let's go ahead and see what the keyboard is like and check the actual flex of the keyboard as well. So let me move the microphone so you can hear what this sounds like as well while I type. So that's what it sounds like when typing. You do feel a bit of flex here. So while you're using it, if I remove this here, you'll see it does have a little bit of flex. So you feel that a little bit. It's not as rigid as typing on the Surface laptop, but definitely doable. I don't know how lappable it is, but if you don't want it to bounce, you of course could just fold it down like this. However, it's going to bounce a little bit until it settles. When it comes to the trackpad, it feels very good, basically similar to what you would expect from a Surface Pro, but not as good as what we had on the Surface laptop. So if we go ahead and click it here, it does click anywhere, and it seems like it's a mechanical click, and it feels very good as far as the haptic feedback. It's pretty decent overall, but again, not as good as the Surface laptop feel. But again, you can use 2 fingers to move around, 4 fingers to sort of go out to all of your windows and everything else. Now, as far as the speakers go, let's go ahead and take a listen, see how loud they get, and then give you a sense of what they sound like. The speakers are fairly impressive, especially for a tablet. I'd say they're quite good, not as good as an iPad Pro that has additional woofers and has a little bit more bass, but I would say this sounds at least as good as the Surface laptop, maybe a little bit better, a little more full, but doesn't go as loud. So decent overall, more than adequate enough, and actually a little better than I expected them to be. Now, as far as overall software, benchmarks, and everything else, let's go ahead and download a bunch of software and then we'll test everything out. Before I download that software, let's see how much storage is here. Other than what I just downloaded as far as the royalty-free music, let's see what we've got as far as overall storage after Windows is installed. So we have 475 gigabytes total, 409 gigabytes available. So that gives you an idea of what you'll have available as storage if you don't upgrade your storage. Now, one thing I forgot to mention about the keyboard is there is a backlight. So if I turn off the lights here, you can see that it turns on and we've got variable adjustments here. So if I turn it all the way up, you can see the backlight. It's great that it's there, and definitely something that's not on all tablets that have keyboards like this. So it's great to see. The disk speed test completed, and we have 3,278 megabytes per second read speed and 3,305 megabytes per second write speed. Basically the same thing we saw on the new Surface laptop. Now let's take a look at benchmarks. So here we have Geekbench 6. We can compare it with the Surface laptop I ran this on earlier. Let's go ahead and run the CPU benchmark and see what we get. Benchmarks completed, and we have 2,790 for single core, 13,882 for multi-core. Basically, we're seeing better than M4 Mac with the MacBook Air, but not as good as the new M5, but somewhere in between. So pretty good overall. It just depends what you're doing and what the task will actually require. Now, as far as games, let's go ahead and try 2 things. We'll try City Skylines, which I know runs on the Surface laptop, but let's try it on the Surface Pro here. So here's City Skylines, and this is something I made some time ago. So if we zoom out, I'm not sure how big the city is here, but this is City Skylines 1, and you can see it's fairly dense, but nowhere near completed. If maybe we zoom in here, you can see what it's like. Of course, a little bit choppy. Let's bump up the resolution, as I think it's a little bit low right now. And you can see everything else is pretty much on high. So we'll go ahead and click yes, and it should make it look a little bit better. But again, fully playable here. So just like it was on the Surface laptop, you'll see there that fully playable, but a little bit choppy to start. But I've even seen this on a higher end graphics card as well. So definitely playable here as far as this game goes. But when it comes to City Skylines 2, I'm not sure that it would work that well. Now, another game I tried on the Surface laptop was Call of Duty. I couldn't get it to load. I kept getting an error. But let's see if we can get Forza Horizon 6 to run on this. So the game's actually working. Let me go and see if I can actually drive and see what it looks like. But so far, it looks amazing. It's probably not the highest resolution it can do, but this gives you an idea. So you'll see I'm not using a controller, so I'm just using the keyboard, but it actually works and it's fairly smooth. I wouldn't expect the best frame rates, but it's surprising how well it runs. I didn't think it would look this good, and of course you could adjust the settings as needed. Now this is getting quite warm. The fans have spun up a little bit. Let me show you with a thermal camera what it's like. So it's warm right in this section here. We'll wait for this to turn on here. So it's not too hot, but right in this section here, this gives you a thermal signature and shows you what it looks like. So as it's heating up, it's sort of dissipating heat off of the top, but we're only talking about 39 degrees Celsius or so, maybe up to 40 degrees Celsius, but it is pushing that heat out and doing a good job of it. But of course, we're not running tasks that you would typically run on a Surface Pro. So I think that's pretty impressive. So if you're wondering if you should pick up the new Surface Pro or maybe stick with the one you have, well, at this point, this is so expensive, unless you want the OLED display and the latest chipset, I would probably recommend finding the last generation, as that was quite fast. But if you wanted to run some games, future-proof it a little bit, you would probably want even more RAM, and that would cost even more. So at this price, it's hard to recommend it, but as far as one of the ultimate Windows tablets, of course, this is one of the best ones out there as far as the build. But again, with the specs and other things being as expensive as they are with RAM and storage, it's just very hard to justify at this point. If you bought the lower end model, maybe with more RAM and swapped out the SSD in the future, that might make more sense. But again, a dedicated PC, you could build some pretty nice PCs around $2,000 to $3,000 once you loaded this out. So it just depends on what your priorities are there, but it's just hard to recommend given the current price. Now, of course, running things such as Word and Excel, that's what this will really be great at. And of course, using the Surface Pen that I've shown in previous videos. But let me know what you think of the new Surface Pro in the comments below. Do you like the new 13-inch form factor? And what do you think about it? Do you have one? Are you planning to pick one of these up? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.